Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. It is me again, Once in Love. Just got back from America's Cup in LA. I'm here to bring you episode 2 of Note.txt.
$10,000 last game.
Yeah, on the line.
True Whale taking down BigV.
All right, guys, so to recap, first of all, congratulations to True Whale, longtime friend of mine, someone who has been countlessly pushing for this goal. He's got the Legend title in multiple seasons. He is very, very good as top player, runner-up for last year's World Finals, and this year, finally taking it. Second place last year, but this year does take America's Cup. So congratulations to you, sir. Very well played, very well done. And a second place with BigV. So the two of them will be representing us this year in Thailand for the Americas region. We have True Whale and BigB, two people who have already played in the SWC World Finals before. Two amazing players, two very strong powerhouses that honestly have a pretty good chance to give EU, Asia, and especially Diligent a run for his money. So top of the bracket, we have our America's Cup champion, True Whale, in his first match against Spires. Now, this was a 3-0 series. The interesting thing about the series that I do think is most worth mentioning, in the third game, Spires actually ran back the exact same draft as in the first game. Now, in the first game, the most notable reason that he lost or started losing was that the Tian Lang defense broke into a violent proc for skill 2 on the Juno, which killed her on the first turn. Now, under normal circumstances, it is quite a risk to assume the enemy will not proc on the first turn at all, right? It's fine if you know the whole draft is on Swift, but in this situation, Spire sits here and he goes, okay, my chance to win this draft is pretty good if my Juno doesn't die, right? We saw it in the first match. Even though True Whale had the advantage of going 4v3 against Spires after killing the Juno, he actually wasn't making that much ground, and it was a very slow grind for him to win out the match. I honestly think that Spires, with that I guess the run back on the draft in game 3 was a pretty good idea, but overall it is very hard to beat a player like True Whale. It's incredible runes, incredible artifacts, and honestly played it very cool and collected. The second game was super clean, and honestly that was one of the most interesting series to watch. Now, in the second game, he played against BigB. So this was the semifinals moving on to the finals. Now, something interesting to note against BigB is something that I believe True Whale picked up or learned from last year. So in some of the matches, he picked his Volantis, but he only picked his Volantis when he had the Juno available to pick as well, right? Instead of leaving himself open to be counterpicked with the Juno or counterpicked with the Juno, Veramos, etc., he only took it when he knew he was able to take the counterpick with him, right? In situations like this, Juno is such a strong unit with her skill 1 with the additional damage that she's actually able to contend herself even without necessarily being a direct counterpick to anyone's draft. This shows like a crazy level of evolution year to year across players, right? True Whale goes from being able to play and get second place and then be a runner-up in World Finals to being able to take the actual victory in America's Cup, right? This is because he takes things away from his opponents, right? He took something from a Raigeki last year. He took things from BigV. He took things from Diligent. He took things from all these different players in World Finals, in Europe Cup, Asia Cup, and in America's Cup. And this honestly goes to show that hard work is pretty good for him. So for our second place, Mr. BigV himself, somebody who managed to win an America's Cup in the past, as well as go to World Finals, very, very, very good player. Clinical, incredibly fast Swift runes. This man has like 5 sets faster than my fastest set. I have pretty good Swift runes. So let's talk about it. BigB, DreamsJoseph, first match. Very clean. BigB versus DreamsJoseph had to be probably one of the bigger rune gaps. I think that there's a pretty significant rune gap in the way that these two players play. BigV didn't quite show enough respect to DreamsJoseph early on. Didn't show enough respect to the Veramos. Ended up losing a match to it. but overall came back and said, look, you know, I have a stronger box, I have stronger units, I might as well play more aggressively, and it really paid off for him, right? DreamsJoseph is someone who really plays for the first match. He spends a lot of time analyzing his opponent. He makes sure he has every counter pick available for that first batch, and BigV getting over this hump was really important for him, right? DreamsJoseph is probably the harder opponent for BigV because of the way that he prepares for it. So in this situation, BigV coming out on top, I believe it was a 3-1. It's very good for him. Gives him a lot of confidence going into the next match. And like he said in his interview, he got his revenge, and he really wants to see DreamsJoseph on stage next year. He wants to see him come to the performance, come to America's Cup, and play for himself. Now, moving on from that, BigV versus Reese was an interesting match for sure. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the term, but that was definitely BigV's match to lose, right? BigV has a faster rune box, has better LDs, has better box overall set up into Reese. Reese is a very aggressive first turn player, right? If he gives up first turn, it's a lot harder for him to come back. He's going to have to play the Miles Raccoony setup, and against BigV, that's just not nearly as effective, right? So BigV really actually took the initiative against Reese. He challenged him in speeds, he challenged him in aggressive control, and ended up actually just honestly destroying him. Like it was pretty rough. BigV had very good drafts. They were super clean, very good decision making. He played it slow, it was cool and calculated, and that's why he got into the finals. That's why it was him versus True Whale in the finals. So for the finals, we ended up having True Whale and BigV. Now this was a very clinical finals. These two players draft very clean. They have very good understanding of each other's boxes. They actually overlap a lot of units. Both of them have Nikki, both of them have Laura. A couple things that we saw that were unique. We did see BigV pull out the Elena, which is the Dark Pudding Princess. That is, we saw it last year in America's Cup. It was really good, really effective. This year, a little bit less so. It was a little bit harder to use. People don't really have the element of surprise with it anymore. I do think that the Julian was actually a really good pick from True Whale. However, it did not end up performing well enough in this match. He did lose the match where he picked it. But between the two players, we saw things like Juno counter picks for the Valantis. We saw a lot of the Oracles. We saw Wedgettes. We basically saw Wedgette Laura ban almost every single game. We did actually see BigV pull out a Verd. He pulled out a Verd, which was an interesting matchup. We saw a couple Pudding Princesses, but like there was nothing that's like really stood out in these matches, right? These players played clean Summoner's War. They were good. It wasn't like, oh, Insane Violent Procs won this match. Insane Violent Procs won this match. Despaire's OP. It's broken. We should nerf it. Like overall, these two players play things that are so standard and so like, they don't even RPS each other, right? They don't take the gamble like, oh, I'm going to pick this and try to like mind game the ban on something else. Like where you see the Leo because there's a Sean, right? We don't see the Leo because he picked a Masha and we're hoping that he bans it for some strange reason. So it's very hard to comment and make like a lot of analysis on these players. Everything is honestly very straightforward, exactly how you see it in the game, right? There's no secrets, there's no tricks and tips between these guys. They laid everything out there, put all their cards on the table, and you know, sometimes you just don't win. You don't have the winning hand. But I gotta say, it was enjoyable. I had a lot of fun at America's Cup. I really enjoyed being able to have the chance to watch this live, as well as to see a lot of you guys there. For World Finals, we already have 4 people that have qualified for it. So we have True Whale and BigV for the Americas region. We have Lest for the China qualification. And then the open bracket, the wild card, we have Zara. So hopefully we're going to have an amazing SWC 2023, and I look forward to bringing you guys Note.txt version 3 or episode 3 in a few weeks.